My husband beat cancer, and now he's giving up on our marriage. It's been 6 months since my 21F husband, 21M, underwent a stem cell transplant. This was in combination with chemotherapy to enhance his quality of life if the chemotherapy was effective. He had metastatic brain cancer in his bones, and his prognosis wasn't favorable. He still has to worry about the cancer recurring in the future, but the treatment was successful, and now he's back to regular life. However, nothing has been normal. He's been depressed ever since he returned home from the transplant. I've tried discussing it with him and demonstrating my support. I spoke to his family, essentially just informing them that he's feeling overwhelmed and asking if they could be more supportive. I've attempted to manage many of my own challenges independently. I have clinical depression, and now I'm recovering from suppressing it to be his caregiver for 2 years. I'm in counseling and still work full-time. This past week, he informed me he's been contemplating it for a few weeks and doesn't think he can continue this, meaning our marriage. He says I always take my frustration out on him, and the past year has been entirely about me. I took a few deep breaths and then told him that's hard to believe since, in the past year, all I've done is work and use all my vacation days to support his treatments. This summer, we spent all of our extra money on him getting his dream motorcycle and all the accessories to accompany it. We had planned on me getting one too, but it became too costly, so we agreed on him taking the motorcycle course and buying a bike himself. I've been concentrating on my therapy and recovery. I've been going to work every day. I also got essentially ghosted by my best friend after she got married this summer. I've had repressed memories and childhood traumas resurface in the last month that I've been working through mostly on my own. My husband is aware, but we've only had 2 discussions about it, and when I attempt to bring it up, he shifts the conversation to something unrelated. I mentioned wanting to go to marriage counseling, as he has been refusing to see his own therapist or counselor for the past 3 years. He finally found a counselor for himself, and I feel like it's too late for that. After he told me this week that he thought our relationship was over, I snapped. I informed him that if he was giving up, I wouldn't remain silent about the pain I'm experiencing anymore. I have always been forced to stay quiet to listen to him talk about his issues, and I've done it willingly for our entire marriage. Hearing him say those things felt like the ultimate betrayal. Now he wants to retract his statement. He says he never should have said that and wants me to give him time to work with his counselor and heal, but I still believe the problem remains unaddressed. He thinks the last year has been about me, while our entire marriage has revolved around him. He never acknowledged that. He refuses to discuss his treatment and the things we were together for, but he jokes about his own funeral even though it makes me cry. Does anyone have advice or questions are welcome? I think he's given up, and now that he's verbalized it, part of me just wants to call it quits. Update 1. Here's the situation. My 21F husband, 21M, underwent 2 years of intense cancer treatment. He went into remission after receiving a stem cell transplant this past spring. Since then, he's been neglectful of my feelings and our relationship. He rarely wants to do anything I suggest. There's always a reason why we can't at the moment, and he never considers it again after saying no. This includes insignificant things like going to the zoo or staying out late on a weeknight. He won't spend any extra money on me, even for something small like a lamp for my vanity or new clothes, since I've barely shopped since we got married. I make my own money, but he handles all the budgeting. When he was in treatment, we established a system where I'd send him the money needed to pay the bills. He'd return the remaining amount to me if there was any surplus. When we relocated in the spring, our rent increased, so he said we needed to reduce our discretionary spending. He instructed me to keep $100 each month and send him the rest. I don't comply entirely. I always mention there are a few additional expenses I need to keep money for and retain a small amount, but I still end up with very little left in my account, and I always informed him that I wasn't comfortable doing that for more than a month or 2 while we sorted out our finances. I'm not comfortable just sending all my money to him to manage, but since then, it's been one reason after another why we haven't been able to merge our accounts. He's mentioned a few times that he understands why I want a joint account, but he doesn't see the difference since he's my husband, and I should trust him with it. He knows my parents were really bad with money, and they never taught me to manage finances. Sometimes he hints at this when I talk about wanting to share our finances, but I had more savings than my husband ever did. I owned my own car before he even had one, which his dad partly paid for. I covered the cost of our wedding. It was small, but still nice, and cost around $8,000. While we were engaged, he bought a pickup that broke down before our wedding. He used his savings to pay off the rest of the loan on it, around $1,000. I paid first and last on our apartment and covered rent while he was unemployed. This was after I helped him secure a job at the pizzeria where I had been working for 6 months. He got us both fired. He always says they were shady anyway, which is true, but not the point. After my original post, I informed him I want to set up a mutual fund, so we can at least have our cash and bills coming from the same place. He just asked me to reschedule the appointment with the bank. Then, a few minutes later, he revealed a plan he and his brother made for us to get a joint checking account. I said that's not a mutual fund, and I want to stick to what we already planned. At this point, the warning signs are impossible to ignore. We've discussed, he explains and explains, but things never improve for me. I can't concentrate on myself at all because I'm basically babysitting an adult. I have so much healing to do, and I wanted us to do it together, but he's not allowing it to happen. I think it should be over, but a part of me wants to keep fighting for this. After everything, I just want us to work so badly. Could this possibly be saved? If not, how do I gather myself enough to face that reality? Edit. I got stoned 22 hours into replying to comments, so that's why I'm chatty. Thanks so very much to everyone who's helping me think through this. Tonight, I canceled our 2022 trip to Mexico. I think it's time I leave this relationship, and again, thank you so much to everyone who helped me realize that. I plan to update in a few days. I'll probably still need advice, and I'll let you know how it's going. Update 2. I'm writing this from a relative's house. I told my husband that I wanted to separate nearly 2 weeks ago, then left the apartment on Monday. I feel like I've changed so much since my original posts, and a part of that is thanks to all the commenters here on Reddit. I really appreciate everyone who shared their insights and experiences. I have realized that my now ex had a serious dependency on me. I don't think he realizes this, but he's been talking a lot about the childhood trauma he has surrounding his mom, who he cut out of his life. In my previous post, I mentioned how he told me that he thought our marriage was over. There were other things he said at the time that were really hurtful too. Now he tells me he said those things in a moment of misdirected anger. He was angry about his mom and took it out on me. He's been really nice the last few weeks, but there have also been some interactions where he's just been an asshole. It's been downright disappointing how he reacts when I ask for help with things. I feel like he's maybe put a lot more thought into how he behaves, but it's still so self-centered that he's not actually doing anything to help me. He asks me questions but never has much to say, until today when he asked if I had thought about how he feels going through cancer, if I meant my vows, and how I could just give up on us when he never has. Not gonna lie, guilt tripping has always been a boundary I've tried to maintain in our relationship. He doesn't do this. I was pretty done after that. I already told him I will likely want to get divorced once we've been separated for a year, legal reasons. I told him I think we should have entirely separate lives, with no commitment to each other. I said we could still talk if it was good for us, but the fact that he came into the phone call with those questions written down ahead of time, and he told me he always fixes things and makes them right after he screws up, and he's fixed his problems in the last month. That's why he's had 2 counseling sessions and got advice from 2 older brothers. Like, I am so done. I feel hurt, betrayed, turned off. I just want this to be over. I know he's going to keep hurting me, and I'm not letting it happen anymore. I took my rings off for good this morning. I don't think I will regret our marriage, but I won't regret walking away from it either. I feel terrible sometimes because I know the things he's been through, and because I wish I could have stayed married to my first love, and I hate that he's going through this too, but we've both been through so much. I think the difference is that I wanted to get through those things together, and he decided to go silent for most of our marriage. In the process, I was pushed away, hurt, and honestly feel somewhat taken advantage of. I realized that at this moment, he's someone who's going to keep pushing me away and shutting me out. He wants another chance after ruining opportunities for 6 months, and I'm not too ashamed to admit I can't do it. I won't, not after everything. This man took my love and commitment and looked the other way while I shouldered the burden. I hope he realizes this, and I hope he genuinely heals and addresses his problems. I can't be there for it though, and he chose that even if indirectly. I'm in limbo now, just beginning to figure out what the next few weeks will entail. Dear Reddit, please help me by sharing your insights, wisdom, and experiences. I do have strong support near me, but I think we all understand the unique value of our relationship advice, and I'm not admitting it often, but I'm sad and scared. The last 2 posts made me feel less isolated. OP posted 2 new updates after I posted here, and I'm now adding them here. Update 3. First of all, I need to say that I am still so glad that I left. I think that as I update, you'll see why. I think things could be a lot worse, but also I'm facing some serious complications here. My ex is still in our apartment, 2-bedroom. We have a 1-year lease that's up in March, but he's decided that he'll move out in February. My grandma lives 10 minutes away, so I'm spending most of my time in her spare room, including most nights. But I don't really want to say I've moved out in case he decides to come after me legally. I'm afraid it could be detrimental to my case if I leave first. For the first few days after our separation, he was nice. He wanted to grab burgers together and discuss how things would proceed. We agreed we wanted to remain amicable and in occasional contact. He said he's sorry he hurt me, and he understands why we need to separate. I think he was lying because 2 nights later, he wanted to call me. He mentioned he wanted to discuss things, so I told him he could call me if he wished, but I reminded him that we already had a scheduled day to talk about our separation, assets, and everything else. Therefore, I really didn't want to discuss any of that until then. As it turns out, it was more of an interrogation. I brought it up in my previous post, mentioning that he asked if I had taken our vows seriously. I responded, yeah, I wrote them, or don't you remember? Sidetrack. I actually have a video of that. We were sitting in my car, intending to write our vows together. He played Clash Royale, ignored me when I read them, and asked for his opinion, then recited them in a really annoying manner. This is literally on camera, because I was trying to record what I had hoped would be a special moment. I was furious, and he apologized, trying to make it up to me. But in hindsight, I feel like that story story adds some context. It's difficult to share stories about the early days of our relationship because I think, at that time, I had no idea what love should be or what a healthy relationship looked like. I had never been treated particularly well by any role models in my life. My heart aches because I can't blame my 17-year-old self for wanting a stable relationship where, if I got hurt, at least he apologized. The bar was so low. If I met him now, I don't think I would have spoken to him for more than 5 minutes. It's painful to admit, but it's honestly true. I don't hate him, but I don't like him at all anymore. I just want this nightmare to end. Okay, back on track. Yesterday, I returned to divide some of our belongings. He's been living in our apartment, but I want to be present while he packs, ensuring he doesn't take my stuff. So last night was terrible. He tried to take a bunch of my collection books. He took my beanbag chair, coffee table, and one of my bookshelves. For every item I want to keep, he demands to know what he gets for it. I called him out on the complete 180-degree shift. He went from wanting to be near me and understanding everything to becoming demanding, cold, and rude. He asked why I was saying this. Why did it matter? We're not married anymore. I guess I just couldn't grasp what I was hearing. It's like the last few years don't even matter. The apology that he claimed was so sincere last week, he laughs at when I ask him about it now. He's angry because he thinks that he deserved for me to stay since he believes he's put in the effort over the past month. Here's the reality about the last month we were together. He constantly complained about work, milked his days off for COVID, and lost even more pay than I did. He saw a counselor twice and is convinced they solved all his problems. He ignored the mental health crisis I've been facing, literally reaching out to family, friends, and doctors for help because I remembered a depressed childhood memory of sexual abuse. This started in October. He barely checked on how I was coping with that and did absolutely nothing to help. When I told him the memory had created new triggers for me around sex, literally just, please don't hold my legs down, he proceeded to do exactly that the next 2 times he tried to have sex with me. It sent me into a real panic attack, and I had to stop. There was one more time he tried to have sex with me, and I felt so tense and scared that I stopped him and said, I didn't feel like it. I was scared of getting triggered again. And that's the end of that, because I kicked him out of my bed a few days later. I really hope that one day he looks back on this and regrets what he did. You'd think that, since I'm splitting up with him for how badly he hurt me, he'd try not to do it anymore. But I think part of him enjoys punishing me for leaving. He ignored my needs, acted like an entitled jerk, triggered and abused me, and now he's mad because I was supposed to stay forever. It's crazy how much I now dislike someone I once thought I would love forever. Financial abuse update, because you asked. The reason it took about a month for us to separate was due to me getting my finances sorted. I had to proceed cautiously because I didn't want to alert him. Many Redditors advised me to do this, and I agreed that I needed to be meticulous about how I handled splitting our finances. But I'm skilled at this, and he was happy to give me all the information because I'm getting my life together for the new year. I obtained all the passwords to our accounts and told him how things would proceed moving forward. I'll pay my own bills. We'll split shared bills equally at 50-50. That's how it should have been from the start. There were also 2 bills with overdue charges from the last period, totaling about $100, and I made him pay that himself. We had COVID over the holidays, so that was a setback, lol. I'm fine. Worst cold flu I ever had, but not like I almost died. Get vaccinated if you can, guys. For all I know, that's what kept me out of the ICU. Then I had to focus on work for a week to catch up and have my performance review. I got a raise, but work has been quite difficult. I'm being all but denied a promotion, clearly because I'm a woman. It's a complicated situation, but I think I'll be ending another relationship soon, and hopefully finding a new company to work for. Lastly, I visited my parents and siblings. I have 3 sisters, who I am very close to. I informed them about what was happening. They knew some of it, but didn't know I was planning to leave him. It's tough for them, because they love me and are devout Christians. Divorce is hard for them to accept, but they all support me and have my back 100%. My whole family supports me so far, so I feel safe and confident in my decision. I am often scared though, and it's been incredibly challenging splitting our belongings, and he's literally attempting to take my precious book collection. But I'm strong as fuck, and he's a coward who, in his own words, wouldn't have even battled cancer if it wasn't for me. Plus, I have Reddit, where I recently gained numerous new followers and people who are providing kind words, advice, and sharing their stories. Guys, this is fantastic. Someone who awarded me on my last post, I've hardly gotten an award for anything ever. Thank you all. Also mentioned that my story helped them learn something in their relationship. I was raised religious and I'm not anymore, but because of it, I just see community as magical. I'm eternally grateful, even to that one jerk that I was trolling on my last post because he was pretty funny and I need reasons to laugh these days. I'm going to keep updating. At this point, I feel like I don't really care if someone who knows me finds this. I'm sure they have their own reasons that they're on Reddit looking for relationship advice. Let's connect. Hit me up. I'm being real here and it's part of getting free. Update 4. This is the most recent update. I've already posted several times in this subreddit. I've received so much support and invaluable advice, and I was eagerly waiting for the day to be able to come back back and say this. Reddit, you're gonna be so proud of me. I've been living back in my own home since February. I spent January crashing at my grandma's, but my ex trashed our my place while I was gone, so I had no choice but to move back in. February was hell, as far as my home life was concerned. My ex and I shared the same apartment at the same time, and he was a spiteful bitch whom I had to avoid, but I've had other really exciting things happening for me, and this past Monday he finally packed up and left, so moving on. I got a new job. It's a huge step up from my sad little inside sales position at a crappy manufacturer. I'm going downtown, taking a train to the office, and I actually get the chance to work from home occasionally as well. I'll earn more, genuinely connect with people, and finally have an opportunity to advance my career. My ex was never encouraging of that. He wouldn't tell me not to find a new job, but he would constantly remind me of the steady paycheck and job stability every time I started updating my resume. While staying at my grandma's, I applied to around 200 job postings. I attended at least a dozen interviews. I met numerous people and learned about countless companies and industries in the corporate sphere. It's been incredibly enjoyable, and I'm absolutely thrilled to be able to advance my career with this new opportunity. If you follow my posts, you'll know I also went for a rebound, super hot professional athlete. I was a virgin when I got engaged to my ex, so this girl has been exploring her sexuality. As it turns out, he was not good in bed. I can't really blame him because I was his first, but I was missing out. Especially towards the end of our marriage, he lost all interest in trying anything fun or new. He rarely did anything for me unless I asked. I have quite a sex drive. This isn't new about me and it hasn't changed. I like intimacy, but I rarely wanted to have sex the last few months of our marriage because it was boring and just laborious for me. It felt so impersonal, like he just wanted to get off, and it had nothing to do with me. I have a few triggers that he's aware of. The last few times we had sex, he triggered me. It seemed intentional, which is so fucked up, really badly, to the point where I was crying and had to stop, and he would try to keep going instead of comforting me. After that, and the fact that I already had sexual trauma, I was genuinely concerned that I was going to become scared of having sex, or intimacy, or letting people touch me. So I knew I needed to get out there, even if it was just to learn more about myself and what makes me happy and comfortable. So I fucked a retired pro athlete. He's retired at 26, so it's not like he's old or anything. I met him on Tinder, and he's a CEO, which is pretty hot. I've had a few other adventures since then, and it hasn't all been positive, but it's been so fun, and I feel really empowered. I'm keeping my triggers in mind, and just trying to figure out how I like to have sex, and who I like, and also what I don't like. Now, moving to the downtown scene, well, I already crossed pro athlete off the bucket list, so I was thinking a celebrity would be interesting. Mostly, I'm not actually planning to sleep with a bunch of guys, just a few. I'm enjoying settling into my home. I put up a poster with Audrey Hepburn and Marilyn Monroe on it, which my ex would have refused to look at. I set up a home office in the spare room and pulled back out my keyboard. I'm going to concentrate on my job and healing myself, which is going to take time and care and work. My ex is still hassling me, trying to get money. He's broke, so am I, but at least I know how to budget. He wants me to pay for car repairs and continue to help with the loan on a car I no longer have any access to. I've learned to say no and go fuck yourself. The latter has not gone over well, but it feels great and I really wish he would. By the end of March, I should be completely free of any ties to him. Aside from the legal divorce we'll have to wait a year to get. I just feel so light and free. My dead marriage makes me really sad, but I wasn't the one who killed it. I was still administering CPR after it was dead and cold. My ex pushed me out and treated me like shit, and now he's angry and feels hurt and spited and abandoned. In reality, he's facing the consequences of treating the only person you have left like shit. I have no sympathy for him, only myself now. Thank you, Reddit. If it wasn't for you guys, I might have gone back to that selfish asshole. Instead, I see my own worth. I see how hard I endeavored and how much I was ignored and disregarded. It won't occur again because now I cherish and appreciate myself. I'm not flawless, but at least I'm making an effort, and I know it's only progress from here.